All right, we're here at my Vermihut indoor worm bin, and what you see here is the remnants of our feeding 18 days ago. And it went unexpectedly for me, maybe not for you, but I definitely have to admit I was wrong, because right here was a beet and some pomegranate skins and bananas and various other vegetables. And over here was some blended vegetables. I put a huge blob of it, and I thought for sure that that blob containing exactly what was over here was going to at least take as long as the whole foods, and as you can see clearly I was wrong. So let's take a look at that and see how it did. Pretty cool, huh? That's why I like to do these experiments, to see how the worms react to all the foods. And what was really surprising to me is that when blended up, foods that you would think that they weren't going to eat, they actually eat. And let's kind of go in and see if they finished off that beet, because it took the worms forever to get in there. And what I'm seeing right there is kind of a blob or a tiny worm ball of worms inside the beet. Really surprising. This is the first time I've ever done a beet, but I was really surprised that all this part that was right here went into that blended food, and it's completely gone. But as you can see, they are still working on the beet. And look at these. These are pomegranate skins, and they might as well be rocks, because the worms really didn't even touch them from what I could see. I see one worm right there, but the mold got on them, and they really haven't touched them. And they're squishy. It's not like they're hard like an avocado shell. They are pretty squishy. So let's go back through that time lapse and let's point out a couple things. So once again, the eggshell grit was gone first, followed by the lettuce within 4 days. And by day 5, both the top and bottom spread out blended food was completely gone. And for the next several days, the strawberry flesh, the grapes, the banana peels, those all kind of disappeared. But by day 11, the big blob finally vanished. And the worms slowly turned their attention to the beet. But the pomegranate skins, like I said, might as well have been rocks that I put in there. And let's just kind of go in and see if any of the banana peel is there. They eat the flesh off it pretty quick, and then the rest of the banana peel takes a little bit longer. Right here there's kind of a cluster of worms, so they're working on something. And I think over here was the grapes. They ate them all, and they kind of pushed one up, so a little bit of the skins of the grapes, but none of the flesh. So very interesting. So if you're wondering, should you blend your food, I would say yeah, go for it, absolutely. And I have absolutely done that in the past. I'm not saying I've never thought that blended food is good. I do think it is very good. It was just when it's in a blob like that, I thought, maybe it was going to take them a lot longer than it did and, kind of get fermented. But this was kind of a weird feeding with those pomegranate skins and the beets. Those are certainly long-term foods. That is a big lesson learned here. So let's kind of dig in and see how the rest of the bin is going, because with all this experimentation, the level has gone down and I really haven't been feeding it as much as I usually do. This right here is just kind of a mango skin, and it is getting weaker and weaker, and the worms are just kind of making a hideout of it and putting all kinds of castings inside of it. So I'll break it up, and I wonder if I put it in a blender if they would eat the mango skins. Just a lot of interesting things from this. I am very intrigued by the blended food situation. I know a lot of us do it, and it's very time consuming if you've got a lot of worm bins, so that's another reason why I don't do it all that often. But when I started out, I certainly did it, until, like I said, I got into some fermented issues. But check out all the worms all throughout this bin. This is fantastic. I've got 4 layers on this Vermihut, and I think I have somewhere around 5,000 worms. I actually did a video where I counted out my pre-harvest tray. We found 800 worms in there, and from there we kind of determined the rest of the count based on how much worms I see in there, and things are looking great. Now this bin has been going, or this tray has been up here for 73 days, which usually I'll rotate right around the 60-day mark, but because I was doing all those experiments and I really wasn't putting a whole lot of bedding or food in here, things have just kind of gone a little bit slower. So we're going to give them a nice good feeding. And we're going to do another experiment. I have some shrimp shells that we're going to put on top, and I want to see if I can capture an avocado worm ball being formed. So that's going to be our top feeding for this tray. All right, so these worms are gonna get 2 types of feeding. I'm gonna do a regular feeding and then I'll do the top feeding experiment. So we'll lay down a bunch of cardboard shreds here. That will certainly help bulk it up. It's just going in dry, but all the food is gonna get it moist, and this Vermihut does an excellent job of maintaining great moisture levels. So we'll start with some lettuce food scraps that we know they absolutely love. These were gone within, I think it was like 3.5 days. Then we'll put another apple core in there, and looks like we have some mushrooms, another apple core, some strawberries, tangerine peel. So that'll be a good start for them. Then my mom gave me some more carrots, so we're gonna put a little bit of that in there. It looks like by a little bit, I mean a lot. There we go. And then kind of as a control, I'm gonna take one avocado shell and I'm gonna put it right below the surface, and I'll put a Brussels sprout and a mushroom in there along with a strawberry top. And then I'm gonna do the same on the surface. And then we'll also put a couple of shrimp shells. I'm pretty excited to see if they come up and eat these. Just not something that you would typically think a worm would go after. And unfortunately, it may be a smelly situation for us. And as always, we'll put in some worm chow. First, we'll spill it over the side. But, you know, like I say, it's just another way of getting some more nutrients into the garden and into the worms instead of in my trash can by using my expired grains. And then we'll get rid of our coffee grounds by adding them into the worm bin as well. And I've got a pretty good experiment going in my urban worm bin where I put a whole container this big inside there, and I'm interested to see how that's going to go. And then finally, we'll go in with the biggest surprise of all my time lapses, and that's these eggshell grit, pulverized eggshells that the worms use in their gizzard. And, you know, all kinds of different theories on what's happening with them. Maybe the worms are just crawling through them. Maybe they really like it. Maybe it's just absolutely coincidental. But for some reason, this is always the first thing to go. So I'll just add a little shredded cardboard on top, and then let's bury this thing up, and we want to bury it pretty good. Now, like I said, I have 5,000 worms in here, so if you just got your Vermihut, you are just starting out. Do not put anywhere near as much food as this. In fact, you need to go very lightly. I've got a couple of videos that show you how to start off the worm bin, and you really want to slowly ramp up the food because they can eat all the bedding that's in here. They don't necessarily need a whole lot of food, and what a bunch of food in your worm bin can do is cause serious issues. Off-gassing and fermentation. You know, the nitrogen cycle could get ramped up inside there and you get ammonia, and the worms will absolutely not like it. They will die, they will flee. So number one problem in a new worm bin is overfeeding. So don't feed like you're seeing here unless you've got the same amount of worms that I have. All right, so the moment we've been waiting for, let's go ahead and set it up. We've got our avocado shell. I think we put in one Brussels sprout, one strawberry, and one mushroom. And what we're gonna need to do is we're gonna need to make kind of an indentation here because I don't want the worms to have to crawl up the side of the avocado. I want them to be able to kind of get at it right from the side so it's even with them. Now, as they crawl around the food, they always bring some castings with them, so hopefully it doesn't get overloaded with castings before we can see them all pile in there, but that's just kind of my theory. I'm hoping that the worms get in here and just absolutely turn it into a avocado and have a little party in there. And then we're gonna put all kinds of different areas of shrimp in here. Now, when we do these time lapses, what we do is in the morning, we'll lift off the lid and film it for about a minute, and then in the evening, we'll do the same. So it takes a lot of dedication and trying not to forget to get in here and film when we do these time lapses. So we are opening the lid every single time. And as you can imagine, this might be a smelly situation for us. So I just want to thank the executive producer for putting up with this. When you saw that last time lapse that went for 17.5 days, yeah, multiply that by 2. That's how many times we had to set up and tear down the situation that we had going here.
That is already stinky.
It's gonna be bad.
Smell it.
It's gonna be bad. Oh no.
Oh no, we got a house full of kids coming.
Oh, Gasparilla. Not with that lid. That lid does a fantastic job. I'm going to put some eggshells right here just to kind of show you again how the worms come up for them. And this is going to be interesting. We are already smelling the shrimp shells. So we're actually going to be putting the Vermihut lid to the test to see if it can kind of eliminate all the odors that we might find in here. This is going to be very interesting.
You and your Vermihut might sleep outside if it gets too stinky.
Oh my gosh, we just got a threat of being forced to live outside, both me and the Vermihut, if it gets too stinky. So if you've enjoyed these time lapses, I have several other that I'm going to link down here for you. So I hope you're having a great day. I hope your worm bin is doing fantastic. So happy vermicomposting, everybody. Take care now.